Hey guys, hey, welcome back to the Bad Beast Barbecue and Cooking Show. I'm your host, Daryl Smith. Hey, today we're going to be doing part 2 of the Fire Butler review. Today we're going to be showing you how we cooked some steaks on the hibachi part of it and cooked a few shrimp. So enjoy. Okay guys, so you saw the basic unboxing and the setup of the Fire Butler. That initial setup with the foil on top of the hibachi pan was for a long smoke. So our first cook now, we're going to go ahead and season the hibachi pan, and then you're going to see us go ahead and cook a couple of steaks at the hottest temperature in which we can get the hibachi. So let's go ahead and show you the setup for searing, and then we'll go ahead and get it seasoned, and we'll go ahead and do our steaks. So don't go nowhere. Okay guys, here we have the fire box. And this is the searing plate that we talked about in part 1. It goes right on these tabs in the firebox, and it keeps the charcoal from falling down too far into the firebox and keeping it closer to the pan. Now we have a chimney full of charcoal that we're going to heat and get ready to use to fire up the hibachi. Since this is the first time we're using the hibachi pan, we're going to give it an initial oiling with some peanut oil. We wanted to use some type of oil that has a high tolerance for heat. Okay guys, ran upstairs and did a quick clothes change. So this is not the next day, it's still the same day. So while we're waiting for the charcoals to heat up and things so that we can go ahead and get the hibachi started, we want to talk about the steaks and the seasoning that we use. The good folks over at Rio Seasoning is a company in Deer Park, Washington. It's owned by a Diva and Richard Curtis, and it's a family owned business, and they were nice enough to send us this seasoning pack here. Now, the seasoning pack includes their Rio Original, okay? It also includes their Rio Hot, and it includes their Rio Chicken. Now, today we're going to be using the Rio Original on our steaks. They've been marinating since 12 o'clock today, so they've been marinating for about 4 or 5 hours in the Rio Original. We're going to go ahead and throw them on the hot hibachi, and we're going to see how the Rio tastes, and we're going to see how the Fire Butler works as a steak sear, okay? So stick around. Okay, now that the coals are ready, we'll dump these into the firebox. You can see how the searing plate keeps the coals from falling into the bottom of the firebox, putting them closer to the pan. Then we'll take our oil hibachi pan and put it right on top of the firebox. Now, talking to Troy, he was saying that it's best to use some pork fat or some bacon to initially season the hibachi pan. So here we're using some thick cut bacon to do our initial cook. And once the bacon is cooked, we remove it from the pan. Next, we take some paper towel and a set of tongs, and we remove some of the excess bacon grease from the pan. In addition, using the paper towel to spread the bacon grease around to give it a secondary coating. We used our Maverick to get a measurement of the temperature in the center of the hibachi pan. As you can see, we're up to 388, 397 degrees, and eventually got to 401. Next, it was time to throw a steak on. Here we have our steak that's been marinated in the Rio seasoning, the Rio Original seasoning. That's where the yellow color is coming from. That's the marinade from the seasoning. Now these are pork steaks. So our intent is to cook them all the way through to a medium well to well done. So we cook each steak approximately 4 to 5 minutes on each side, making sure that they were cooked all the way through. As you can see, the hibachi pan gave some pretty good caramelization to the steak. And the yellow coloring is once again from the Rio seasoning. Once the steak was cooked, we removed it from the hibachi pan and cut into it to make sure that it was cooked well enough. While cooking the last steak, we decided to throw some shrimp onto the outer edge of the pan. From what I'm told, the center of the pan is the hottest area, and then as you get closer to the edges, the heat kind of tapers off. So we threw the shrimp on the outer edges so that we can better control their cooking time. And right before we remove the shrimp from the pan, we move into the center, to get an additional blast of heat. And we took them off. I'll tell you, they tasted very, very good. We even took the opportunity to throw a little butter on the hibachi and caramelize a few onions. And once we were finished cooking, we just threw a little water on the hibachi and scraped it down. And what you don't see here is we used some paper towel to dry it off, and then we re-oiled it. Okay guys, hey, you saw the Fire Butler, you saw us unbox it, you saw us set it up initially in our Weber for smoking with the foil on top of the hibachi pan. Today we did some steaks, some pork steaks in the hibachi pan, and you saw me cook some bacon in it first. I talked to Troy Nadal, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He's either Troy Nadal or Troy Nadal. I'll put his name at the bottom here and the contact information for the Fire Butler setup. And I talked to him today and I asked him what was the best way to initially season the hibachi pan. He said either use some pork fat or some bacon. He said you got to treat that hibachi pan as kind of like a cast iron skillet, kind of like your grandmother, you got to keep it seasoned. So at the end of our cook, we kind of threw a little water in it, kind of cleaned it up, and then we re-oiled it. I know you didn't see that because the camera battery died on us, but after I had scraped it and things, I re-oiled it and things of that nature. So it's ready to go for the next cook. The Fire Butler, the only thing I can say about it is, of course, it's a new attachment, so I'm still trying to get used to it and understand what it can and can't do. I would have liked to have gotten the fire a little bit hotter, but I don't think the Kingsford briquettes provided that type of heat, even though I had the basket relatively full. I think lump charcoal, which burns hotter, would be more appropriate for the Fire Butler when you're doing the hibachi mode, especially because the metal is so thick and heavy. It takes a while for it to gets heat up. Now it holds heat very well, but it takes time for it to heat up. So I think that the lump charcoal, which burns hotter than briquettes, would serve better. Finally, I want to thank Rio Seasonings for sending us this gift box of seasonings here to try out. We tried the original tonight. You saw us, we seasoned the pork steaks and it marinated in that seasoning for about 4 hours or so. And then we did some shrimp in the same seasoning. That original seasoning is excellent. It's a different taste. It has kind of a curry twist to it. The one thing about the Rio seasonings is there's no MSG and they're gluten free. So it's definitely something to look into. We got 2 other flavors here that we're going to try. It's the hot, and then there's one for just strictly chicken. So we're going to be trying those in the upcoming weeks. But I want to thank the folks out at Rio Seasonings for sending us this to try out. I believe it's Diva and Richard Curtis out there who owns that business in Washington. So that's all we have time for tonight. If you have any questions about the Fire Butler or Rio Seasonings, please contact me, shoot me an email, and I'll get the information for you, or I'll send you to the proper website or Facebook page. But that's all we have time for tonight. Like we always say, where there's smoke, there's fire. And if it's fire, then damn it, there just might be a barbecue there. See you guys around the smoker.